Hi everyone, welcome to Val's Tales. I'm Val Portelli, writer of these stories,
I'm Val's sister, Wendy Walker, and I'm the narrator.
and Wendy's daughter Jazz is our producer.
Every fortnight, we'll bring you a new story. Sometimes funny, sometimes sad, always thought-provoking.
Here we are again, getting used to this now.
Hello, and welcome to week 3.
Our story this week was actually inspired by you, Wend.
Oh, thank you.
You kept nagging me to tell a children's story, and I didn't think I'd be any good at it, but I gave it a go. For a few months, I've had foxes in my garden, and although I've got a reputation as a crazy chicken lady when I feed them, it seemed like a good idea to make for the story.
Not live chickens, obviously.
No. The other thing about this story, I thought I'd get my own back. It gives you a chance to practice your different voices.
Lovely, thank you. Well, actually, I quite enjoy doing that. It's quite good fun. And I still think you'll be really, really good at writing children's stories because the way your mind works, and you're just kind of just out there a little bit and quite odd sometimes, and I think children will appreciate that.
I'm not sure if I've just been complimented or insulted. You're calling me a child.
Probably complimented. Let's go for that.
Okay, just get on with the story.
Okay, so the next story is called Lucy Fox. Lucy's story.
Mum, tell me a story.
Once upon a time.
No, not like that. I mean a proper story. I'm too old for fairy tales.
No one is ever too old for fairy tales, Mia. What sort of story do you want? Just a quick one, then you go to sleep. Deal?
OK, Mum, deal. But it's freezing outside. I'm worried about the foxes we see in the garden. How are they going to keep warm if we don't look after them? Can't we catch them and bring them into our house?
They wouldn't be happy living inside. Snuggle down, and Lucy will tell you her story. Lucy's mum met her dad Chico on Valentine's Day, which was quite romantic. She'd been roaming around on her own when he saw her and chased after her. She thought he was a big, strong male who would make a good father, so they started playing together. Rosie was screaming with laughter when a loud bang made them run and hide under some nearby cars. A man was shouting from the window, telling them to stop making so much noise. It was 3 o'clock in the morning, and although foxes usually go out at night, that's when people like to sleep. After a while, the man stopped yelling, so Rosie and Chico went off to make a home together under some bushes hidden amongst the trees. Lucy was born at the beginning of April, 51 days later, along with a sister and 2 brothers. The cubs couldn't see or hear at first, so Rosie stayed with them using her big bushy tail to keep them warm, while Chico went out hunting and brought back food for all the family. Although the siblings often squabbled, they knew that they had to keep quiet and still if people were around, as not everyone liked them. By the summer, they were ready to explore, and their dad taught them how to catch their own food. One of the boys, Luca, was the best mouse catcher, but Lucy was the best at climbing. Her other brother left one day, and Mum told her he'd gone to live not far away. Chico decided the rest of the family should move, but the first place he found was inhabited, so they carried on to find somewhere else.
Mum, why did that other vixen scream at you?
Lucy asked.
Well, answered Rosie, it was their home first, so they were telling us it was already occupied. Barking and sometimes screaming is our way of talking to each other.
After a while, Chico came across a tumbled-down shed at the end of a garden. Most of the wood had rotted and the door was hanging off. Lucy wanted to stay inside out of the rain, but Dad didn't like that idea. There was only one entrance, so if they were disturbed there would be no way out. At the back of the shed, the ground was soft, so after digging for a little while, Chico led his family to a den underneath. From here they could see if anyone approached, but still have some protection from the rain. As spring turned into summer, the weather got warmer, and sometimes Lucy would climb on top of the roof and have a snooze in the sunshine. One day she looked up and saw a woman watching her from the far end of the garden. The lady didn't shout or move, but seemed to be smiling, although Lucy jumped down and hid in the bushes just in case. The next day the woman appeared again, but this time she threw something onto the lawn, halfway between them. It smelt delicious, but it could be a trap, so Lucy stayed where she was until the woman went back inside and closed the door. Quick as a flash, Lucy ran along the side fence, jumped down to the ground, grabbed the chicken wing, leapt up into the bushes and was back in her hiding place before the woman had time to open the door again. The next day, Lucy found another lovely piece of chicken waiting for her, so every afternoon she checked the garden, and sure enough there was some food waiting for her. Sometimes it was a mixture of things in a bowl, sometimes it was wings or bones, but Lucy didn't mind. She wasn't fussy and enjoyed everything. Gradually she learned to trust the lady and sat on the grass to look through the conservatory windows until Mrs. Jones came out with the meal. One day Lucy saw her open the door, but before she'd a chance to grab the chicken there was a flash of fur in front of her and her meal had gone. Her brother Luca had been watching and stolen it. Well, she'd see about that. Luca might have been bigger than Lucy, but she wasn't going to let him get away with it. She found him hiding under the shed and gave him a good telling off.
Didn't she want to share it with him, Mum? Mia asked in a sleepy voice. You always tell us we have to share with our brothers and sisters.
Yes, she was happy to share, but he was wrong to steal it without asking, Mrs. Jones replied. And you should be asleep by now. We'll finish the story tomorrow.
No, please, tell me the rest of it tonight. I want to know what happens next,
Mia said, although she could hardly keep her eyes open. OK, but only 5 more minutes. The lady must have noticed because the next day there was not 1 piece of chicken but 2. The word soon spread, and before long other local fox families heard all about the best place to go for a good meal. Eventually, Mrs. Jones opened a restaurant just for them, and the local supermarkets realised she was not a crazy woman who ate nothing but chicken wings. Dogs usually live for about 12 or 14 years, but foxes only live for about 4 years. So by the following summer, Lucy was all grown up and had her own family. She brought her cubs to show Mrs. Jones, who had her own little girl called Mia. And even when Lucy crossed over the Rainbow Bridge, the lady never forgot the foxes who brought her so many smiles with their antics. Did you enjoy the story, Mia? But Mia was fast asleep. Many years later, Mia grew up too, met a lovely man and got married. Can you guess what her husband's name was? Why, it was Mr. Fox, of course. Thanks for listening. If you're enjoying these stories, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Podbean, or our YouTube channel. You can also follow Val's Tales on social media. Details coming up.